GM. How's everyone doing?
GM, what is going on? I knew I could expect some good vibes and good music before we started this up. That's always the Premia way. What's happening, DK?
Uh, it's going. Not nothing too much. I'm just rolling out of bed. Actually, I was up late fixing some stuff regarding our first rollout of on-chain quest for trading comp. But doing good now. How are you doing?
Feeling good, man. I don't know if it's just a reaction to like this most recent pump. Sorry, maybe that sounds a little emotional, but just generally, and like I just feel good overall. I feel like we're entering a really awesome time right now, just in this space altogether. Like all of the building that's happening all over the place, good vibes. I feel like we're really entering into like a sort of a new era here right now. So just yeah, feeling good, man.
Good, good. Yeah, this we got Pow talking right now, so hopefully it doesn't ruin anything for us. But
Yeah.
yeah, things it's one thing that's interesting. I mean, this is a side tangent, but one thing that's interesting is, at least from our perspective of like working in the vol markets, is like we go from like extremely low vol and like, well, what is going to be a catalyst, and like there's nothing that we see in the foreseeable future to be a catalyst, and then like out of nowhere, like this is like just something dropped, the BlackRock information drops, and then it
Yeah.
kind of snowballs from there, and then it seems like everyone else that had like ETF proposal requests that had been sitting on the shelf collecting dust is like, all right, well, let's dust this off and get this submitted too. So
I mean, does it not seem a tiny bit suspicious on the timing of all of this? I mean, like, I don't know. I don't want to like come out with any conspiracies, but something seems a little bit fishy. But hey, man, it is what it is. That's why I think it's important actually for like newcomers or just generally like people like stick to the fundamentals. Like, don't necessarily get washed out, based on price movements. I think everyone who's in this space recognizes all of the wonderful merits it has and all of the amazing technology that's here. And hopefully, this technology will better the lives of so many. And it's important just to remind yourself and go through the motions of just like how awesome this tech is, how inclusive it is, and like all of the wonderful things that are happening.
yeah, I mean, I agree. This it's far reaching. Obviously, economics is pretty integral to the Web3, um, just as a foundational aspect as opposed to Web 2. But yeah, it's interesting how technology does touch a lot of people, and everyone kind of wakes up when some of the core foundational on the economics things wake up. But nonetheless, we're not here to talk about macro.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh, all right, so how should we kick it off today? Do you guys want to give some intros? I can do a little intro. We can chat on
Yeah,
what we're
let's
doing
do it. Let's
together, cool
let's
stuff we
let's
got
kick.
in the pipeline.
Sure, of course. Let's maybe kick it off with some intros, and then we can, get into the meat of it.
Cool.
Do you want me to go first, or?
Yeah, go for it.
For sure, for sure. Okay, everyone. So nice to be here with everyone. Thank you for joining us on this joint venture between Rep3 and Premia. Of course, there's some exciting things happening down the pipeline. My name is Whipper. I work with the wonderful team at Rep3. I've been in this space since 2017, and as I mentioned earlier, I absolutely love what I do. I love this technology. I get excited every single morning, every single day about crypto and Web3 and all of the things happening here. So it's super, super awesome just to like literally be here, build, see awesome platforms like Premia, like just tackling so many awesome and handling like I love options trading. I love trading in general, and it's just awesome to see all of this stuff happening on the blockchain itself, allowing users to be free to trade whenever they want. So big shout out to Premia for all the hard work and awesome stuff that they're doing. But yeah, it's just super awesome to be here. Yeah, I'll pass it off. Quick and neat, quick and easy.
Is it just me, or is the Rep3 account have a speaker as well? out of
Oh, yeah,
curiosity.
I do, but you guys can continue. Hello, folks. This is Avi, Space Monkey. I am also part of the team, and of course, super glad to be on the call as well.
Awesome. And then I'm DK. I wear many hats. But at Premia, I cover operations, legal, some strategy stuff, and then I had been managing a lot of the project management side of things for the V3 implementation, and luckily ran across Rep3. I think it was some of it was serendipitous, but also we had been looking for reputation solutions, both from I don't know, from a foundational perspective, and looking at what what was out there, and luckily we were able to partner together, and things have come a long way. Actually, we've been talking for quite a while now. If we roll it back. Okay, so how should we kick it off? What should we talk about first? We got a lot of things that we could tackle, a lot of avenues.
Do you want to maybe talk about the academy and the course and how we've sort of tied in Rep3 with that, and then we can touch a little bit on Rep3 as well, and talk about our partnership and some of the things that we're focusing on and how we're trying to make this gamified experience just overall awesome for the user, for the community.
Yes, let's do that. All right, story time. So rolling it back to some of the initial things that we were thinking about, right? So one of the things that we at Premia needed in 2023, well, okay, we'll start Academy and then we can talk broader as well. So is we will be implementing some features that need some sort of feature gating or financial literacy testing later on this year. And so the way that we were kind of thinking about doing that is, okay, we'll have to support some sort of in-house exam in which that people will have to make sure that they acknowledge that they understand the product, that they understand how to manage their positions within this product, and they acknowledge that the risks that are inherent here, and so that they can kind of manage that risk responsibly. And as that idea was starting to blossom, we were like, all of the current implementations of some sort of either low-level questing or some of the cookie cutter questing that exists is not really fit for purpose. At the time when we started building it, there really was no quiz infrastructure. That's kind of changed a little bit since the beginning of the year, but so we're like, well, we can build it. We can house a lot of the information that we want to extend to our users. We can kind of custom tailor that experience. And so we went on the warpath of the academy. Now, so the beginning of so then we decided, okay, we'll expand upon this financial literacy, and then we'll go, let's just try to expand upon the user base in which that kind of know how to use options. And so we started building some course material. We started putting the feature sets together, and one thing that we realized really quick was, okay, if we want to include some of the gamification, some of the on-chain reputation, we also ran into a very critical question in my eyes of, all right, we start to gamify this, looking at holistically Academy and just V3 Premia Blue. How can we kind of monitor, maybe not monitor is not the right word, but how can we acknowledge the impact that a certain individual has without releasing their wallet to all the other users, right? So that was pretty foundational for us. And one thing that we kind of saw very early was with Rep3 was kind of their implementation as they were doing with Cold DAO. And ColdDAO has a similar structure that, they have a staking mechanism. You have to stake for a certain period of time. If you break that staking mechanism, or you start the process to unstake, then obviously that you're not aligned for whatever reason. It could be personal, it could be change in management structure, it could be many reasons, but we wanted the ability to see, okay, what is this person's influence? Is this person, maybe a vocal minority? Is this person have significant economic influence within, the protocol? Are they a heavy user? Are they not a heavy user? And so these are some of the things that we're looking at. And the implementation that you guys did for ColdDAO made perfect sense to us. And so from a lot of that perspective, Rep3 made sense to us, right? And so the way that it works right now for the Academy is, as you complete the exam, we mint an NFT to your wallet when you first start. And then for the Options 101 track, that NFT will dynamically update as you finish different courses. We have another NFT for the trading competition, all through a single minter. So the Rep3 infrastructure of their NFT smart contracts allow for one minter and then multiple different use cases to be used on that. And then some of those use cases could be single use or standalone, as I refer to them, as like the trading competition. But then also you have the dynamic elements. And right, so we are very, very early in our partnership. And you can already see like some of the implementations that we have, and we're about to roll out the strategies, which will be kind of a new track as well, which is going to be another dynamically updating badge. But when we're thinking long term, we're thinking the Academy plays into long term, but then also utilization of Premia Blue plays into long term, right? So if you're a very heavy liquidity provider, if you are a frequent trader on the platform, if you are a large staker and governance influencer, then these are different things that we can track on chain, and then we can have that one master progression badge and kind of look at that and be like, okay, well, this person has significant influence in this area, and so we can use that to then tailor user focus groups. We can use that to then tailor as we have different community calls, or if if one person comes in and is like if we really, from like feature prioritization, be like, okay, well, we definitely know this user is a heavy user, and so this is something that we should really focus on. So anyways, that's what we're thinking long term. Again, like I said, very early in the stages today. I think the Academy's been up for 3 weeks now, I think, and we already have 1,500 people, 1,500 individuals that have used the Academy in some respect, and I want to say over 2,500 badges roughly that have been issued amongst those 1,500 people. So great success so far. Everything has worked in lockstep. Great. To be honest with you, the numbers, considering that we are in a bear market, and it does take, some of the courses do take significant amount of time for people to kind of go through and learn, and we're happy with the success thus far that people are utilizing our Academy and learning and growing and broadening their knowledge with different products.
That's awesome, DK. And of course, huge shout out to the success, and I'm sure that success will continue to go onward. And I really like that. I love this idea, and I mentioned this when we were originally talking, just the idea of the Academy in general. I just think it's like very, very different. You don't really see that. And I love the idea of making sure that users are not only educated, but feel comfortable with what it is that they're doing while they're trading around. And maybe that's a nice segue for just us to open up a little bit and give a quick intro to maybe those who don't know so much about Rep3 to get a sense of what it is that we're building out and what we're doing. So to tie into what DK was talking about, so Rep3 is a powerful community tool which helps to gamify all aspects of the community and drive user behavior, which naturally benefits the community at large. And while that's happening in the background, Rep3 is helping Web3 users build out their Web3 identity. And that's something that's super, super important. And we're seeing a lot of that pop up around right now. And if you can imagine, there's so many different use cases that individuals could use their Web3 identity. You know, a really popular use case that comes up is this idea of like under collateralized loans, or something that's a little bit more of a favorite of mine is that, so as we work with different communities, there's so many different campaigns that individuals can run. And imagine being able to alter governance in a way where users who show up day in and day out, they're power users, they're constantly providing feedback. Imagine those users were given a specific soul-bound NFT token, and that puts them in a specific tier level. Imagine being able to give them a multiplier on their current token weight when it comes to voting. Or imagine situations where protocols can offer cheaper fees for those power users. Or if you were able to get, better loans or whatnot. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that like Rep3 is essentially helping the communities really gamify and reward those specific individuals that come in all the time that really deserve that recognition. And what's nice is that these users could essentially flex their Web3 identity to everyone else within the industry to show them what they've accomplished, what they've done. And it's a wonderful tool. And here we're seeing a great use case and a great example of a partnership where users can come and flex their knowledge of, or their trading experience or whatnot. So it's super, super cool. And to tie it back into trading, all of these different trading competitions, you could essentially flex how good of a trader you are. And then maybe people could follow you as a trader and maybe try to mirror trade or whatnot. But I know I'm getting off a little bit of a tangent, but I'm just trying to give everyone here listening a sense of how powerful this tool is and like some different ideas that we're seeing other communities put this tool to work. Another example is, communities looking to gamify user behavior and to get communities to stake tokens more frequently. We're seeing so many different aspects, but maybe I'll get Avi to pop in here if he wants to add anything in terms of what we're trying to do here at Rep3 and, where we're taking this and what the vision is down the road.
Yeah, for sure. So, Vipper, like Vipper mentioned, already an amazing overview. So, just to add a little bit to that, so the idea is that every single community, right, there are multiple touch points, and for everyone, as DK has mentioned, as Vipper has mentioned, there's a lot you can do with the Rep3 tool, with the gamification and all these things. But the idea of incentivization and acknowledgement is something that was very closely tied to ERC20 token. But in our case, what we are trying to do is that maybe we can use these non-financial incentives to one just create their on-chain reputation, but the second thing, and tying back to my earlier point of community being scattered, multiple touch points. So we are working towards providing an ability wherein every single touch point could be incentivized. And just from a bird's eye point of view, everyone would be able to figure out that, hey, this is the aspect of community I contribute to a lot more. And accordingly, retroactive incentivization could come into play. So our goal, like one of our goal is to connect the entire community with one node and for communities to be able to operate in that manner.
Nice. Maybe it will make sense to kind of go over the product suite that you guys have, because we not only use the Academy dynamic badging, we actually also use some of the role syncs in partnership with some other platforms. So, for example, we have some requirements on guilds to get the role for a Premium citizen. That includes things such as voting an active, had voted at least in one proposal. And then with that, we have some integrations within that Discord bot so that if you have that role, then you can mint that NFT as well. And then we can use that NFT for gating. So maybe for those that aren't aware, let's go through the current product suite and then maybe give some alpha on some of the stuff that's upcoming that I think is really cool.
Yeah, sure things. I was having some mic issues. So as of now, there are like two different aspects to the product offerings that we have going on. One is our community dashboard, wherein you can do like bunch of things. So it's a tool that is highly optimized for communities that are running on Discord. So you can give out badges for Discord calls, you can give out these different membership badges, you can create multiple tiers. Essentially, just create a credentialing platform wherein someone can join the community after doing, someone can get a particular Discord role after jumping, doing like bunch of hoops. And then the more they participate, the more active they are, the more their credential keeps on upgrading. And the upgrade itself can be tied to some, let's say, running parameter. So if someone, let's say, stop participating in that particular aspect of Discord, they get downgraded. So we can do this entire gamification straight through Discord. And then there are these contribution badges. Let's say a lot of manual contribution is happening in the community. People are doing all these GitHub requests, they're doing all these designs. A lot of things are running by a community. So that is also something that you can use the base tool for. And of course, for giving out credentials for any and all Discord calls, and also creating these other credentials wherein which are time bound. So that let's say you can sync your credentials along with the epoch or season the community is following. So that's and the tool that we are that Premiere is utilizing right now, the academy version is live. Therein you can upgrade badges using any and all on-chain activities, and that is something that we have already discussed in a bit of length this far. But the coolest thing, the thing that we are super excited about, is the next version, wherein all those things that we have mentioned this far, they'll all become self-serve. Someone would be able to come in and just customize their community space to as much as possible, everything from font to color to all these things, and being able to run incredibly complex campaigns, which keeps on, let's say, you would be able to run these perpetual campaigns that will just keep on happening forever. Basis the parameters you have set up using the self-serve tool, people will be upgrading or downgrading. And these could be anything from snapshot to smart contract activity that would include anything from bridging. And of course, you would be able to create your own subgraph, do all of that, Discord activity, Twitter activity, all these things you will be able to do just from a self-serve tool. And of course you would also be able to do like these one-time quests. So that is the next version that we'll be going live with, and something we are incredibly excited about.
Yeah, the tool is actually really easy to use, and we're really focusing on this aspect of just like self-serve. And just to sort of echo what Avi was talking about, the level of difficulty in terms of campaigns that you can run it goes really deep. Like you can really run some interesting stuff. And what's really unique about Rep3 is that it's built in a way to facilitate whatever the requirements of the community is. So, as we mentioned earlier, if some communities are really hyper focused on trying to get their token staked more, or if some communities are really interested in educating their users, or if communities want to push voting, or whatever really the community sort of needs, Rep3 is sort of like this Swiss Army knife tool that can really be deployed in so many different ways. And we're getting just unbelievable positive feedback from anyone that's touched it or even looked at it. It's really, really cool. And also, just to touch on what Avi was talking about, this idea of this morphing NFT is really, really cool when you think about it. So as users engage more and more with these different protocols and projects, their NFT is constantly changing, upgrading or downgrading depending on that user behavior. And it really becomes this really interesting way to gamify all different aspects of the community. So it's really, really interesting. And yeah, like I said, for those who haven't had a chance to actually play around with the course, we would highly recommend, giving it a spin. But even checking out, the Rep3 website just to get a sense for what's happening, some of the latest developments and what's coming down the pipeline, some of the partners and projects that we're currently working with, just to give you guys a sense of like all of the different ideas and interesting things that you can actually use and how you can deploy this tool. It's really, really awesome.
Awesome.
DK, maybe like I've got a question for you. Like, maybe you want to talk about like how Premia plans to further utilize the Rep3 tool down the road, and like some interesting ways that like you guys see, the Premia community benefiting from the Rep3 tool.
Yeah. So the trading competition is a multi-pronged approach to how we're thinking about the foreseeable future. So obviously we want to get the behavioral audit side of things. We've gotten a lot of good data in terms of data collection, in terms of how users are interacting with the platform. We're getting a lot of good feedback in terms of like what quality of life improvements we can add to the front end. We've already caught some things because our smart contract audit is happening in tandem, and so we've been able to keep hot on the pulse there. And so we're catching items before that they're even coming up in the smart contract audit, and then being able to quickly fix them and release those fixes. And so that's one of the main areas that we're looking at. But then there's this other category that may not be as apparent to everyone, which is how we're thinking about community, how we're thinking about the gamification elements, how we're thinking about user engagement. And so we want to roll out some longer term, let's call them seasons for now, of different trading based competitions on our platform, right? So the trading competition itself is kind of a beta, sandbox of how users are interacting with the platform, different things that we can keep track of both on chain and off chain. And then we're taking all of that feedback. And then Wekes actually was on the call. He might still be around, but how we're going to bring this all together for probably 2 seasons a year, something like this, of different achievements that someone can get during a season. And so that or maybe even quarterly. And so we have this integration of users that are constantly coming to our platform. They may be new, they can still participate in maybe these like quarterly semi-seasons, but it kind of plays into this bigger, longer gamification element. And how do we bring all this together, right? So some of the things that we want to give to users is, showcasing on chain that, that some sort of credentialing that like they, participated in this, they did really well in this. And then they can use that, as a showcase of, skill sets that they might have relative to their peers. All right. So we want people to be able to retain that. We also want to showcase like within different time bounds. So maybe, like I said, the quarterly element, or maybe the vol markets are always changing. Sometimes low vol, sometimes it's high vol. There's different trading conditions, so we want to make sure that people are showcased their ability and their skill sets within different vol regimes. And then we also want to encourage participation in all aspects of Premia, right? So there's many different ways that you can participate. We have obviously the core products right now, which is mostly the options market. We intend to expand upon those products in the near future. We also want to make sure that we have active governance participation. And so there are a lot of things that we looked at regarding governance participation, and we're trying to build something that survives for decades. We're not trying to build something that's short-term in nature. And so in part of that decentralization, we want to eliminate the decentralization theater components, and we think that a way to showcase what that participation is, and then use that as a signal to maybe for like other delegates, excuse me, for like the delegate program. So right now we currently don't offer delegation of votes. However, we do have like a voting escrow model. And so there's a bunch of different stuff. So we have like core voting, we have emissions control, we have like proposed like the strategy of where the platform is kind of going, what new products are next. There's a lot of different areas of governance that are important, and we want to make sure that based on the flavor of participation that you want to have, you have all the information available to you, that if you want to delegate, you can delegate easily out to a certain member of the parliament or the community that aligns with your views. And so these are all things that we're trying to solve for. We're using the trading competition as just like the first iteration there to collect information and then expand upon that into a full suite of being able to recognize that, okay, well, maybe I don't have the time to be an active participant, but this person kind of coincides with the same views that I have for the protocol. I'll just align all my votes with this certain individual. I know that this individual is a heavy user of the platform, or I know that this individual has a significant economic interest in the protocol, so that I know that my views will align with theirs. So that's how we're kind of thinking about things. The NFT components is important to that. The delegation system that we'll be implementing in the future will not be willy-nilly. Anyone can kind of become a delegate, and so we want to make sure that they are active participants, whether that be from a trading side, whether that be from economic side, whether that be from there's multiple different components there. And so this is how we're thinking about things long term in the governance framework, and then also in making sure that we're building products that people enjoy using and make sense for users. And so we think the best way to do that is through a reputation system, right? And Rep3 obviously is building that fundamental infrastructure out for a reputation system. I'm not going to get into some of the things that we're thinking about in terms of how we have some ideas about how grants are distributed, how different fundamental decisions are made, but reputation is going to play a massive part of that. And so, the Rep3 integrations that we have now is just kind of a stepping stone, but we have a longer term vision that we're putting together. It's going to take some time for us to get there and be implemented in the way that we want, but this integration of off-chain to on-chain components, bringing it all together for an on-chain credential, and then using that credential to then token gate delegation, token gate, maybe parliament members, token gate, different core governance functions is the future, right? So community is the future, token gating is the future, on-chain reputation is a unexplored space. I think that not enough people are working on it. More people are working on on-chain DID, proof of personhood and stuff, and not necessarily reputation, trust, how a user has acted in the past, stuff like that. And so I think a lot of what Rep3 is building is building that in a way that is easily discoverable and easily seen. It's transparent, so that new users or users that don't have the time to participate actively can easily make decisions.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. And I get really, really excited about this idea of Web3 identities. I know I talked about earlier in the conversation about under collateralized loans. That's specifically a space that I'm super excited to see how things develop, because clearly as it stands right now within the DeFi landscape, it's not so capital efficient the way we've got everything set up. And it seems like a long shot right now in terms of figuring out the solution, but tying back into what you're talking about, this idea of identity and how you can trust people on the internet, essentially through their Web3 identity, and trying to find primitives that allow us to work more capital efficient. It's exciting. And, I'm really excited to see where we sort of go with this. I know that we're super, super early, and we're not, we all know that something super amazing is being built here. We're just not exactly sure how it's going to unfold. But of course, it's really, really exciting.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that anon forward or privacy forward is the future. Not everyone wants to dox, not everyone should dox. And how do we solve for this, whether it be, portfolio management or governance delegation, or there's so many different ways to expand on this. And you're starting to see the portfolio management space. We have one partner, Value, who's starting to build that out. How can you trust to make sure that this individual is not just going to take all of the money and run? from you starting to see, we actually have one participant in our parliament who is from a like DAO and governance based shop that kind of focuses on this. So they're kind of an active participant in many DAOs, and so that that like their vision of how protocols should operate and run, and what where their interests lie is kind of the same across multiple protocols. Is like you're starting to see like the grassroots of it now, but I think that's only going to expand. And so reputation is a fundamental problem that I don't think that enough people are spending time on, and so it's ripe for disruption, if you will.
Yeah, 100%. And of course, anyone listening, if you guys have any questions about some of the things that we talked about so far, maybe about where like we see things going, we'd love to make this as interactive as possible. So just feel free to sort of raise your hand or request to speak, and we'll bring you up to get this as interactive as possible. DK, did you want to add anything in terms of like what else is going on at Premia? If not, maybe we could just like do some questions, or I can even ask some questions myself.
Yeah, I mean, I can give a brief overview of what's going on. So
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Our trading competition is showcasing all of the features that we have in Premium Blue. Premium Blue is just what we're calling as the V3 version of the protocol. It introduces a lot of new features, and so we're releasing those features kind of piecemeal, and so users can kind of take those in bite-sized chunks, learn how to use them in a risk-free environment, so they don't have to put any capital at risk. And then we're incentivizing that with quite a few prizes. So we have over $150,000 in prizes. We got cash prizes. We have video game keys. We have trading platform subscriptions. And the active community knows that after this call, actually, after this AMA, I had been telling everyone. So I see like Eat My Shorts in the audience and stuff. So he's very well aware. Right after this AMA is we'll start releasing some of those prizes. Considering our first week just wrapped up of the trading competition. So all of the on-chain events you get. So as you participate and use the platform, we have off-chain events like social quests of meme competitions, Twitter raids, stuff like that. We have the on-chain quests of just actively using the platform. It is a trading competition, so the P&L of some traders that are on the top of the leaderboard will also be kind of shoot into rewards. So we have rewards kind of siloed or isolated for just the top three for a few categories. But then also you get, for just participating and actively using the platform, you get some points or credits, and then you can spend those credits on those as various prizes. So that's ongoing. If you haven't signed up for that, made a video yesterday. It's like a minute-long video. The whole process is only 3 steps to get up and running. From front to back, you can probably get there in about 15 minutes or less. So it's relatively low impact to get started and start playing around with the platform. But yeah, we have a lot of new features that were released in Premium Blue that are new in the option space. So we obviously took some of the battle-tested traditional finance option elements, but we've added quite a few novel ways of thinking things, to build on in the DeFi space, to make things, a little bit better for users. Or, we have some users that are active traders. We have some users that want to partake in underwriting the premiums that you receive by underwriting options. And so some of these strategies are in traditional finance are typically withheld to high net worth individuals or someone that has a portfolio manager. And so you can kind of partake in those by just using, the algorithms that we have built that are, that's kind of been the favorite of what V2 has to offer. So we took what we learned over the last 2 years, released that in the before year end. We plan to have isolated margin. And again, that was one of the reasons that we built out the academy, was that there's going to have to be a financial literacy test to kind of understand the impacts of utilizing margin.
even though it'll be relatively low margin comparative to maybe some of the other platforms that you're used to, because we're trying to build a platform on where you can, manage your risk responsibly. So, but we need it to be capital efficient, right? It's something that's needed within a mature market. So we're building that out. And we're going to continue to implement or iterate on, this idea of seasons, this idea of reputation building over time. We're taking a lot of feedback from the community. We recently launched our Parliament process, which is that we found that we have a relatively good turnout in terms of our governance proposals. However, we wanted to create a representative framework, and I think I see Fluffy in the audience. He's one of our Parliament members. We wanted to bring in a select group of elected individuals to help form the strategy and have higher impact long form discussions with them on a regular basis. So the Parliament was created, and the first electorate came into fruition in April, and we've been working hard on some of the foundational things, like what does the Parliament look like, for the foreseeable future? How do we wrap up proposals into bills? And then we can have like the entire community vote on the bills as a whole. But in terms of like small iterations, we don't want people to have to, come to Premia every single day and have to understand what is going on in governance, right? We want a representative framework where you can select an individual to kind of represent your interests, and then we can work with that individual on a regular, cadence to put those improvements in place, and then we'll go through like a formal ratification process, maybe quarterly or something like that. So all of the work that we've been working on since April, the first step of that is some tokenomics changes that will be released on Friday, as well as the foundational framework for Blue Descent, which is our DAO-like structure. And so we're at the maturity level now. We've been in building for over two years at Premia, so we feel like we've been able to kind of see what the market's doing. There's a lot of new ways to solve different problems that existed 2 years ago today that have matured that didn't exist 2 years ago. So taking those into account, we're adapting to the changing environment. We're making some fundamental changes. So we got cylinders firing in all directions. We got product, we got governance, we have community building. And so the bear market has been good to us in terms of like being able to focus on what we want to focus on and not having to go chase the attention gravity of what's being shiny at the time. And it's allowed us to kind of sit back and look at some game-changing technologies that have come into the space. For example, like account abstraction. What does our account abstraction strategy look like? What does our ZK strategy look like? Instead of having to like make off-the-cuff decisions. So bear market's been good for us. We've been doing a lot. We have roughly 30 people full-time now. And we're able to really focus on things without the noise that can sometimes occur in a bull market. So that's what we got going on at Premia.
Nice.
Knock on wood, we launch Premia Blue into production by July 15th, roughly mid-July is what we're looking at. And then we'll be at ETHCC in Paris to kind of do some road showing of that locally. If anyone's going to be there in ETHCC in Paris, happy to meet. We'll have team members, we'll have Parliament members. It's going to be a good time. But yeah, what kind of questions you got?
No, that's super awesome. Actually, you touched upon something I wanted to talk to you about. So you mentioned account abstraction, and I was curious, DK, because I personally look up to you as a person that I can ask questions to within this space. You're you've done a lot of building, and I'm just curious, like, what are you most excited about? Like, is it 4844? Is it account abstraction? What sort of things you get super excited about, and like, how does that tie back into Premia? Like, what sort of sort of network upgrades are coming down the pipeline do you think are just ultimately gonna, I mean, it's an amazing user experience to begin with. I can only imagine how much better things are going to be as we start to push forward with all these network upgrades. But is there something in specific that you look forward to and you're just like, wow, I just can't wait for this to be deployed?
Yeah, actually. So I don't think DeFi is looking at account abstraction deep enough. I think that account abstraction, even though in reality it's kind of existed within safes, multi-sig wallet accounts, the actual unlock was with the foundational network upgrades that happened in late March. And so even though it's relatively early, obviously you've seen a ton of vendors and startups in the space come and try to create wallets that are account abstraction native. But as it pertains to DeFi, the way that I see Premia utilizing it is I like to think of it like a traditional brokerage account. So in a traditional brokerage account, it's funded. You then have the ability to trade multiple products. And then you can, some of it can be sponsored gasless. The ability to like bundle multi-calls. So being able to do multiple actions at once, right? So for example, if you bought a call option and then that call option is going to settle in the native currency. So if it's an ETH call option, it's going to settle in ETH, but maybe you want to automate the process to take all of your P&L, your profit on trades like that, and immediately swap it to USDC. So it's sitting in your account on USDC. And then the ability to have automation within margin maintenance, all that's going to exist within a brokerage account, right? And you can do swaps through that. You can do, your collateralization of your margin. You can set up, let's say, limit orders that only get kind of triggered within certain criteria, or you can kind of set like strategies that kind of flow between a sign. So if you sign a transaction that says I want to only execute if these different things occur, and so you can pre-sign a transaction that kind of sits there, and then once those triggers are kind of triggered, I guess, then we can kind of execute those transactions. And so I think that right now the best place for that to live is in a safe, maybe a one-of-one safe. And so the way that we're thinking about things right now is you come to Premia, we spin up a multi-sig for you where you are the only signer. And then that multi-sig has a bunch of functionality that wouldn't exist in a traditional environment, or in an environment where you have to like constantly approve transactions, and then you have to approve a smart contract and then spend your money if certain criteria is met, or spend your tokens in your wallet, which is how V1 actually worked with Premia. And so we see that being the future, and account abstraction is key as a key part of that. And so account abstraction for the most part is only really being built on ETH. Obviously, we're going to live in Arbitrum. So Arbitrum actually had a proposal that came up this week to enable that bundling for that ERC token standard. And so, I mean, if you had delegated to us, then we voted for it because it's pretty integral to us. And then the next thing that we need is Ethers V6, which is like a programming thing that we need Safe to support. But then we can add all these elements. So we have in V2, if you know, we actually have a significant amount of traders that always hold USDC, but if they want to buy a call option, they need to pay for that in Ethereum. They pay for the premiums in ETH. And so what we do is we do a multi-legged transaction in which we buy ETH with the USDC, that we then use that to buy the premium, and then we then put the option in your account. And we can do that all in one transaction multi-call. And so that multi-step transactions is going to live in an account abstraction world. And then I think it's going to be cool when other protocols start also integrating something like this into their platform as well, right? So having like a cross product margin or a cross protocol margin, I think is really interesting. So having something like a safe that has your collateral for GMX, but then also has your collateral for Premia, I think would be super interesting. Obviously, those protocols would have to talk to each other, but I see a feature there for sure. Even though that you'll have to have strong trust between those protocols that they're both doing their accounting properly and their mark to market properly. But that's kind of what I see for in the DeFi space, at least, account abstraction being used for, and that's what we're betting on right now. And so, do we want to get locked into having Safe be the infrastructure for that, and then using someone like a Gelato bundler? Probably not, but I think it's a good first step. And at least that's what we see for the first, the near term future. We've already done the specs for all of it. Premium Blue is actually already kind of built in a way. We made a transition, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago to alter some of our smart contract code to account for it when it's ready. So we're already kind of betting that this is going to be available for use in the near term, and our smart contracts are already set up to consume this and be utilized for this. And so once everything kind of falls in alignment, we're going to be able to support it. And I think that that's going to be the kind of the future that we're looking for at Premia, at least, is to combine all these different aspects of DeFi: swaps integrated into your safe, options integrated into your safe, collateral management, margin management integrated into your safe. This is some of the cool stuff that you can do with account abstraction.
Wow, that actually sounds really, really cool. So you're kind of saying, like, in a way that like projects on their own can start to build these sort of account abstraction smart contracts while we wait for like the majority of the wallets to pick them up. Is that what you're saying? Like, because essentially the way you described it, it sounds like we're almost there at this point where we can start setting up some of those safes or vaults, if you will, that have logic that you could code into it to do different things, which sounds really cool.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a testing bed on ETH mainnet right now, right? So ETH mainnet was the first to kind of launch that token standard that allows for the bundling of transactions and gasless transactions. And then you started to see bundlers kind of come up, and also you got Avocado Wallet, which supports it. Then you have because you need it both on the protocol side, but then you also need it on the wallet side, right? And so for our solution for the wallet side, it'll be a safe multi-sig. We think it's battle tested. It's a smart contract wallet that it's the it is the most utilized in terms of like actual capital that's being protected. And so we're just going to build on that battle tested infrastructure that already exists. But then also you need it at the kind of like the protocol level, right? And so 0x was one of the first. So when Robinhood launched their transaction relay service that integrates 0x to do all the swaps natively, that was like the first, I think, like big corporate and Web3 protocol integration. And so I'm excited with 0x. 0x we already utilize. So if you've ever used the swap modal on our platform, we integrate directly to 0x for our swaps. If we can't find a quote for that, we go to Socket. For all of our bridging needs, we go to Socket. And so I think the next logical step is just to utilize the swap functionality. It's called transaction relay, TX relay, on 0x to natively do that within Safe. And so that we can take this to the next. So you don't need to go to Matcha, or you don't need to go to like a
1 inch.
Yeah, like a 1 inch perfect. Yeah, that's a good example. You can all natively within our app manage your portfolio. So your portfolio being your safe account, you move the assets into there. You can do all the swaps natively there. And there's some really cool stuff that you can do with sign in Ethereum now too. So like with account abstraction and sign in Ethereum, you can create a user interface in which every transaction doesn't need to necessarily have to pop up a MetaMask plugin and you hit the sign button, right? So you can do something where like you have a token that essentially will sign your messages based on every button that you click for, let's say, an authentication period of 30 minutes, right? So like, let's say you're like on your bank account, right? You like sign into your bank account, and then you can do all these things. You can move money between your accounts. You can, open up your brokerage within the bank account, maybe buy some stocks. You can send wires or ACH transfers, all while you're signed into your bank account. You walk away from it and your bank account will auto log you off, right? So there's some really cool stuff that you can do. Similar function. You come to a site like Premia, you sign in, and then you can if you can buy an option, and you can deposit liquidity, and you can do a swap between two different tokens, and you just click a button, and we kind of take care of all the rest of it on the back end through account abstraction and bundling of transactions. And so you're not signing a transaction every single time you push a button. And so so it's a similar Web 2 experience of not having to kind of check every single transaction that's kind of submitted. You're gonna have to obviously trust the front end of the platform that you're using, but I think we have a decent rapport now that we've been building for 2 years in the space. And so yeah, so you have a typical Web 2 relationship with the interface. You click on a bunch of buttons. All the things are kind of executed and settled and matched behind the scenes. You don't really, you don't really have to know all the ins and outs of the bridging process, or the transaction approval process, or like setting up your approvals for certain thresholds. When you have to do token approvals before you actually submit a transaction, that all happens behind the scene. You go on a walk, you come back, you're already signed out, because that token only has a 30-minute credential window. So no more transactions can be approved for you. And so we think that is going to be how we onboard a lot more users, is by kind of taking away the stuff that they're maybe hesitant to use or not sure and don't have the expertise. And so abstract that away from the user. And that's the feature that we see in this space, all done through one smart contract account being a safe in our instance.
Yeah, I love the way you put that. You actually just got me more excited about account abstraction than I was thinking about earlier. And it's so true. You mentioned that not everyone is really fully understanding just how big of a modification this is going to be, and ultimately offer a much better user experience for all of us. So yeah, it's really, really exciting. And as we near the top of the hour, I just wanted to check in, DK, with everyone listening. If anyone had any questions or any feedback that they wanted to give, maybe I'll just pause here for a sec to see if anyone wants to request to speak. Doesn't look like it. I had one final question I wanted to ask you, DK. On the lines of like 48, 44, like how excited are you about that change, and like what do you see the impact for overall users? Can that introduce things in Premia like even further complicated or more sophisticated trading strategies or different options or whatnot? How does that impact Premia going forward?
That's the dank sharding, right?
Yeah, exactly. Proto dank sharding, because I don't know if it's the full thing, but I've heard estimates that L2 fees could drop by something like anywhere
90.
between 50x or something. Like
Yeah.
it sounds like we're gonna be on Polygon essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's good for the space. I don't know the specifics around dank sharding. I need to look at it a little bit more. I know that Bedrock for Optimism was allowed to, like, with the way that they bundled things, and they submit the opcode or whatever it's called to to Ethereum is they were able to reduce fees by a significant amount, and proto dank sharding is just going to pretty much make like transaction fees like immaterial. We're kind of preparing for that world where it becomes part of the protocol's core business to sponsor transactions. And so I think that we're going to see a lot of infrastructure in place to kind of support that. And so like gas on a layer 2 is just like, it's not going to be really a thing that users really have to worry about. You can already really do it with account abstraction, because like if you're having someone bridge assets to a account abstraction activated chain, then you can like, as part of that bridge transaction, you can haircut it a bit, and then you can have it like auto swap into native gas token, and then they can pay for the gas and they don't really even know that they're doing that, or you can sponsor it themselves depending on what the costs are. It's a scaling problem, right? So if you're scaling to like hundreds of thousands of users, then it becomes a significant business cost. But with dank sharding, that will not become a significant business cost. So there's some limitations right now. I know that like some large like wallet providers that are like over 100,000 users, maybe even to 1 million users, they are still kind of concerned with the cost that that they're having to sponsor for users. But I still think it's going to be a cost. What's the word that grocery stores use? Like a loss leader. It's going to be a loss leader until dank sharding comes into play. I actually own a bunch of like sharding domains in anticipation for this. But yeah, I think once we hit the sharding, I think that everyone's going to have like a native node on their phone. A lot of some of the regulatory capture or capture resistance elements will live natively within wallets. Your phone is going to be able to run its own node. The access, the data availability is going to kind of fundamentally change for infrastructure providers that offer RPC access. There's a lot of interesting second tier effects, I think, on the industry that dank sharding will allow for. But again, I think everyone's kind of playing a sit and wait and watch and then see what happens. I'm sure there's going to be a few that pop up prior to it and are ready to support it when it comes out. But we'll see. The landscape's always changing. With Ethereum, hitting all these different hard forks and changing how the protocol works, it's if you're not able to adapt, you die. Sure. I think the same thing in DeFi, but yeah, we'll see.
For sure. That's awesome. Great answers, DK. And thanks for getting me even more excited. So I think that's it. I just want to say thanks to everyone who showed up. We're really, really excited about this partnership. We will be, of course, working very closely, hopefully in the near term, to deliver even better products, better user experiences for everyone out there. So yeah, I just want to thank the folks over at Premia for giving us this platform to co-host with them and to have this awesome chat.
Awesome. Thank everyone for your time. And one last thing, where can people find you? It's the best place to reach you guys.
So you can check us out on Twitter, of course. You can also head over to our website at rep3.gg. Feel free to follow, like I mentioned, on Twitter. And that's pretty much the best place. Or you can always pop into our Discord. There's always a little bit of action happening there as well, too.
Awesome. All right. Appreciate the time, guys.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Later.
Thanks, guys. Wishing everyone a wonderful day.